If you ask your average Brit what's gone wrong in the UK, they'll probably mention high taxes, the near perma-crisis in the NHS, maybe the cost of living or student loans. They're unlikely, however, to mention energy, despite the fact that the UK currently suffers from some of the highest energy prices in the world, and that this has a pernicious effect on the economy more broadly. So in this video, we're going to look at the UK's oft overlooked but very serious energy crisis, how we got here, and why, depressing as this might be, there is a silver lining. We're in the process of clearing out our store, so we're running a fire sale right now. Using code FIRESALE, you can get 40% off all of our posters, notebooks, calendars, magnets, keyrings, Brexit, the colouring book, the lot. The offer ends very soon, so click the link in the description for more. So let's get straight into it. This is a bit of a generalisation, but broadly speaking, energy consumption can be split into two forms. Direct fuel consumption, which includes burning fuels for stuff like transport and heating, and electricity consumption, which accounts for an ever-growing share of total energy consumption. The UK doesn't do too badly on the first front. Petrol prices in the UK, for instance, are broadly on a par with the rest of Europe, as are industrial gas prices. It's on the second front, however, where things look rubbish. Electricity in the UK is, to be frank, stupidly expensive. According to UK government data, electricity costs 27 pence per kilowatt hour for industrial users, the highest in the developed world by some distance, and 30 pence per kilowatt hour for domestic users, second only to Germany. It didn't used to be this way. As recently as the early 2010s, UK electricity prices weren't much higher than elsewhere. It's hard to overstate quite how terrible this is for the UK economy. High electricity costs have contributed to the UK's acute deindustrialisation, pushed up inflation, and crippled total energy consumption, which generally correlates with lower overall GDP. Ironically, high electricity prices also make it harder to decarbonise, because they discourage electrification. So, what went wrong? Well, commentators often blame the UK's so-called marginal pricing system. For context, every 30 minutes there's an auction where electricity generators submit bids essentially describing at what price they could generate electricity. The system operator then ranks each generator by price, and then goes up that ranking saying, yes, we'll need your electricity and your electricity and your electricity until they've got enough to meet demand. Importantly, however, in a marginal pricing system, the wholesale price of electricity is set by the most expensive source required. There are at least two problems with this system. First, while it made sense when most of our electricity was produced by burning fossil fuels, and there wasn't much difference in cost across generators, it makes less sense now that our electricity comes from lots of different sources offering very different prices. If, for instance, solar generators say they can generate at 5 pence per kilowatt hour, and gas generators say 20 pence, unless solar and wind can power up the entire UK, the system operator ends up paying 20 pence per kilowatt hour, even though the average generation cost is way lower. The second problem is that, because solar, wind and other sources are rarely plentiful enough to meet total demand, the UK usually needs gas generators to step in, who end up setting the wholesale price. In fact, according to a paper published by UCL in 2023, between 2015 and 2021, gas ended up setting the wholesale price 98% of the time in the UK, more than any other European country. This leaves the UK electricity market uniquely vulnerable to changes in international gas prices, as we saw after Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and explains why wholesale electricity prices have broadly tracked international gas prices in recent years. So you get the idea. People often blame the UK's sky-high electricity prices on our marginal pricing system, and the fact that, in this system, gas generators usually end up setting the price. But this isn't a sufficient explanation for at least two reasons. For starters, this alone doesn't explain why prices are so high. After all, lots of other countries also rely on gas. According to that paper we just mentioned, Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium and Greece all rely on gas at least 80% of the time. Furthermore, that paper probably understates other countries' reliance on gas, because when countries like Ireland import electricity to meet demand, they're usually implicitly relying on gas, and when other countries like Spain use hydropower, this is often essentially price matched to gas. And yet, all these countries enjoy significantly lower electricity prices than the UK. So, why is this? Well, quite a lot of this has to do with the fact that the marginal pricing system is even more broken than we just implied. This is because once the system operator has accepted the bids and decided who gets paid, they then look at a map to see if this is actually going to work. Sometimes it doesn't. Quite often, for instance, all the wind farms in Scotland are generating lots of cheap electricity, but our grid can't carry all that electricity down to where it's needed, in more populated southern areas. This means that, quite often, Scottish wind farms have their bids accepted, but the operator then says, sorry, the grid can't actually carry your electricity down to where it's needed. These wind farms still get paid because they had their bids accepted, but they don't actually generate any electricity. The operator then has to go find another generator nearer the demand centres to fill the gap, which will be, by definition, even more expensive. Again, a few decades ago, this wasn't really a problem because our coal and gas-powered stations were spread relatively evenly throughout the UK. But it's becoming more of a problem with time, both because renewables are generally concentrated in certain geographically convenient areas and because our grid is outdated, with these so-called balancing costs expected to quadruple between 2022 and 2026. You get the idea. It's not just our reliance on gas, it's also our uniquely dysfunctional energy market. But this all points to an even deeper question. Why are we so reliant on gas in the first place? Well, this is a difficult question and would probably require a whole other video, but the TLDR is that there aren't any easy alternatives. Our nuclear industry, for instance, is massively overregulated, as evidenced by the high and rising cost of plant construction. Solar doesn't work brilliantly in the UK because, while solar panels are becoming incredibly cheap, it's just not that sunny here. The UK is pretty windy, but the cost of new wind farms is actually rising, at least according to the most recent government auctions. So that's at least a partial explanation of why energy prices in the UK are so high. As a final thing, there is a massive silver lining here. Namely that it is frankly astonishing that we are as rich as we are while using as little energy as we do. Usually, energy consumption tracks GDP per capita. The UK is one of very few countries to break this trend. Our energy consumption has plummeted, and yet our GDP per capita has held steady. Today, our GDP per unit of energy is better than that of every other large economy, implying that, with even slightly more plentiful energy, the UK could be one of the richest countries in the world. Now, if you've stuck around this long, chances are you're passionate about learning and bettering yourself through knowledge, just like us. You're obviously a thinker, and Brilliant is the perfect learning platform to unlock your potential. That's because Brilliant pushes you to excel in maths and computer science, with visual, interactive problem solving and personalised practice. Their website and app is designed to be highly effective, offering the perfect mix of interactive problems, motivating challenges, and encouragement to keep you moving forwards. Here, you can build genuine understanding and reach serious learning goals. On Brilliant, you'll click with concepts you used to struggle with. Their ever-expanding libraries cover everything from timeless topics in maths and science to cutting-edge concepts in AI, quantum, and beyond. Wherever you are on your learning journey, Brilliant will start you at the perfect level to grow and achieve goals at your own pace, with each course being crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, Google, and more. So, if you want to start learning with confidence and become an even better problem solver, you can try Brilliant for free for a full 30 days. Just go to brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or you can click the link in the description. Brilliant's also giving our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant.